Hi, I'm Zac Distel, Curator for the Sons of the American Revolution, and we're here today taking a look at this 1783 discharge for Sargent James Bright, signed by General George Washington. So these partially printed certificates were completed in Fishkill, New York in 1783, nearby where the Continental Army was encamped at that time. Now at this point, Congress knew that the Treaty of Paris was imminent, and so they advised General Washington to start discharging the more senior soldiers in the Continental Army. This was a cost-saving tactic, but also they did not need the full army just sitting in camp when they did not anticipate much more fighting. So you can see here, James Bright, Sergeant. He was in technically the 2nd New York, which was an artillery regiment. James Bright enlisted very early in the war, and he had served for 7 years at this point. So he was a more veteran soldier. And you can see right here, it is signed personally by General Washington. He knew that a lot of soldiers like James Bright had not received much pay at all. They had not been fed well. They had not been very well taken care of as soldiers. And so Washington wanted to show his personal esteem for these soldiers by signing each of their discharges. Below, you can see down here, this shows that James Bright was awarded 2 badges of merit. Now this is distinct from the badge of military merit, which became the Purple Heart. This is the badge of merit, which was a chevron on the left shoulder, which a soldier could wear, and each chevron signified 3 years of service in the Continental Army. So James Bright would have had the right to wear 2 chevrons on his left shoulder with 7 years of service. Now let's take a look at the back of this document. So as we acknowledged on the front, a lot of Continental Army soldiers had not been paid for the duration of the war, or they had not been paid very much, hence you get the term not worth continental. Congress knew that continental currency was very depreciated in value, so the way that they were going to pay the Continental Army was by awarding veterans land grants at the end of the war. Now, Sergeant James Bright, as a non-commissioned officer, and considering he had 7 years of service, was entitled to 600 acres of land in New York. Now, the issue with getting a bounty land meant that you had to get that land surveyed, you had to then get it patented, you had to pay that surveyor, you had to pay all kinds of fees at the clerk and the county land office. It was a multi-year process, and it required having capital on hand, and a lot of these soldiers at the end of the war did not have that capital, and they really just needed some cash on hand to get their life started again after the war. So you can see here, this paragraph is actually written out likely by a clerk or a lawyer, and James Bright is signing over his right to 600 acres of bounty land to a land speculator. And you can actually see right here, James Bright signed it. That's likely how this particular document survived. It was given over to a third party who then took it to the land office, and they turned it in to claim those 600 acres. We're still doing research to identify who that was and where that land may have been, but this is a really unique example showing the plight of a lot of Continental soldiers after the war, and really showing a first-hand account of how they didn't even get to keep that land that they had worked so hard for. So this is a really unique example of documentary evidence of a soldier signing their land over to a land speculator, which was unfortunately a pretty common occurrence after the war. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's selections from the collection.